And we're live. Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
I'm Sarah Vesloff.
And I'm Frederick Philip von Weiss, and thank you so much for consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with people behind the technology that love what they do
And do tech good.
Hey, and we're doing tech. We're doing tech good here at Devfest Florida 2019. Where are we at, Brian?
We are in Orlando at...
The Oviedo.
She loves saying it.
Yeah, it's about the 10th time I've said it today, so.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us again. And who are we here with? If you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Hello, I'm Hollene.
Hey, Hollene. Hollene, what do you do?
I'm a UX designer.
Yeah. So, what exactly does that mean for you in your role? What kind of realm of UX do you explore every day?
Well, right now I am just finishing up a boot camp.
Mhm.
So, in that context, it's more about learning more of the process of it and like understanding the user so that I can create a better experience for them.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So, where are you from? Where you actually practice this?
I'm
Are you
originally
in
from
Orlando?
Colorado,
Okay.
but we live in Tampa right now. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of us were from St. Pete, Sarasota, and
Dade City.
Dade City. Yeah, so we're all Floridians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's boring.
So
That's cool.
what brought you to DevFest?
Yeah.
Well, I was here last year, and that was actually where I was pretty inspired to pursue the UX design path.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Well, so what about the UX design path that was interesting to you? Why?
There was a lot of alignment with what my interests were. So, like, I studied psychology, and it's pretty data driven, which I have a research background in, and then also very human centered, and I like the empathy aspect of it. So I just felt like it was really aligned with what I want to do.
Okay, so you said you had a background in research.
Mhm.
Okay, so what does that mean?
I was like an undergraduate research assistant in a
Mhm.
neurology lab and stuff like that. So
Interesting.
Oh, okay, so how does that fit in now? Obviously, the research part of it, but
Mhm.
like, what do you practice on a day-to-day at your current position with that?
maybe not in my current role, but like
Okay.
within the boot camp context,
Mhm.
it's getting like behavioral data, observational and like qualitative and quantitative data, and just collecting it and understanding it, and then testing and redoing it all again. So iterating.
Yeah.
That's cool. And at DevFest now, was there any talks that you were excited to see, or what's your experience been like so far?
I just went to like a machine learning one, and that was pretty interesting.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Are there any you're looking forward to still?
I've been following like the schedule. Is there one that's interesting?
We have audience members.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure it out. She's like,
This is from the
lifeline.
I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I don't know exactly.
So when you finish the boot camp,
In about a month,
and what's the plan after that?
applying to roles.
Applying to
Nice.
roles.
That's a
So
good goal.
hire me.
So I know that we had planned to talk.
Mhm.
We ran into each other in the hall, and I was like, come do this podcast. So like, what questions did you have for me about
Yeah.
UX? Because this was something we were going to discuss.
Right.
So I thought maybe others would be interested.
Uh-huh. I guess one that sticks out in my head is like, what would be your best advice for someone who's transitioning into a UX career?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oof. There's a lot of advice. I think that don't discount your previous experience.
Mhm.
I think that what a lot of people try to do is they try to scrub their resume and make it look as UX heavy as possible.
Mhm.
So they'll add in all their bootcamp projects, or they'll add in some freelance things that they did, and they kind of wipe away everything else.
Mhm.
But everything else you've done has context and adds value.
especially you're very lucky you've come from very, I think, transferable skill fields.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you're putting down the work that you did before and the schooling that you have, because I think it's going to be very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And then make sure that the jobs that you're applying for really fit in. I think UX can be really dicey.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I've gone for UX positions and their focus is heavy on visual design.
Mm-hmm.
that's not my area of expertise. I have an art background. Yes, I do visual design, but I don't want to focus on making logos or doing branding. I'm much more interested in understanding users and doing research and then iterating through high fidelity work for that final outcome. So really make sure that you ask a lot of questions and you understand what they're looking for in that role. And be careful of roles where they expect you to be everything, especially in the beginning, because you're not going to learn as much and there's going to be a lot of burden on you. So I think when you encounter an employer who's like, hey, we want someone with research who can also do wireframing and high fidelity. Oh, and can you build that in CSS? And can you work on our logo too? You might want to skip that. I skip those.
And there, to add to what you said too, I think there's would it be fair to say there's a lot of those kind of positions out there? Yeah,
There's a
like
lot.
more of that than anything.
It depends what you're looking for too. I mean, if you wanted that focused UX role, then avoid this. I'd also make sure your portfolio has at least one or two like well written. You don't have to have tons of. That's one thing that people do is they have tons of portfolio pieces. But it's all about having well documented, especially with case studies, especially with UX roles.
Yeah, I have one or two that are kind of my go-to. And when I do, so if they have you do an assignment, which I hate it when people do that, but I'm just we'll forget that for now. But often you'll have to do an assignment. And what I do when I present those assignments, one, I always stay within the time frame. So if they say you shouldn't spend more than 4 hours, don't spend more than 4 hours. The inclination is like, I really want this job. I really want this opportunity. I'm going to spend 2 days. First off, they're going to know. And really it is, what can you do within the time parameter given? So make sure that you're doing that. And then often, especially if you only have 2 or 4 hours, the goal isn't to come up with a highly polished, finished piece. They're more interested in how do you think and how do you attack a problem. So the ones that I've done, what I'll do is I don't have any type of finalized presentation. I've done like a whimsical where I've done, this is where I started and this is what I thought. And then I've got kind of opportunities, risks, things that I've put through, and I just walk them through me solving the problem. And I end with some ideas that I would iterate on and move into a finished piece. That's more realistic. And that will give them a much better idea of what you can do in a role.
And also as you're working on it too, don't be afraid to ask questions and don't work in a vacuum, because that actually looks good on you if you do reach out, because they know that you're doing research, you're actually trying to figure out the problem.
Right.
Yeah, you have 3 like very heavy UX people. So
Well, one other question. So it's been kind of like a catch-22 when you're looking for a position, but they want you to already have experience, and then you have a boot camp. So,
Your story is psychology. Like you're the ideal. You're like one of the ideal candidates because you have a background basically doing this job in a different context, in a different way.
But wait, what was your question?
Well, I guess like, how do you kind of bridge that gap when, they are looking for an entry-level position, but they're like, oh, well, we don't necessarily want a boot camp, we want an actual experience. Like, how would you communicate that so that you're able to land the job?
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what Brian said, that's really it. You do have that experience. So you might not have that experience per se as far as that career. You were doing it for 3 years or whatever, but you have some kind of context to bring to the table.
That's why your story is important. Like, don't remove that. Like she said, don't remove that from your background, because that's part of what makes you a good candidate. And unfortunately, there are going to be places that are going to be like, oh, she has no experience, but you'll find one that cares more about what you can do, not what they think you should have.
A lot of times it's not about when employers are looking for employees, it's not about the actual skills that you have, but it's more about, are you someone that is open to be taught? Are you open to somebody that's open to learn? And are you somebody that you could get along with the team? Are you a good fit for the culture with the team? And if you are, well, then they're willing to overlook the other things. And, you might even outweigh somebody that has 5 years experience because of that. So that there's not, I wouldn't put too much worry on that part of it.
Okay. I've hired quite a few candidates like that, where in the end they went up against someone who had actual in-field experience, but just talking with that person and working through a couple of little ideas was much more compatible for the team than the person with more experience.
Mm.
And I really encourage you to ask for feedback in the interview. Not every interviewer is comfortable doing it. I will, so I will tell you at the end of the interview with me whether or not I'm going to move you on. And if I'm not, I'm going to tell you why, because I think that that's really important. And it's hard to do that after you're not talking to the person anymore. It gets very busy. So I try to do that in the moment. So don't be afraid at the end when they ask if you have any questions, or obviously have some prepared, but ask if there's anything you could have answered better, or if there were any of your answers that they weren't sure about that you could clarify. And it kind of gives you that opportunity to maybe fix something that you made a mistake in, or they perceived as maybe they didn't get quite the answer they thought.
Right? Yeah, you can use that for the next time.
Yeah.
And to go back to the previous thing I was saying too, it's about somebody that's going to have the least amount of friction and jive well with the company.
Yeah, and like extra things you can do to help yourself is get involved in local meetups.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Connect with people because they can actually help you find work.
That could be experience.
So do a startup weekend.
There's one coming up.
There's one coming up. No, so I did quite a few startup. Yeah, exactly. So I did a few startup weekends, and so on that I was the UX person. And what I was able to do on the first day was help talk about the problem that you're solving. Then I'd go out and do interviews. So now you have some research.
Yeah.
Then you're ideating on solutions. And I mean, you're doing all that over 2 days. You're meeting all kinds of new people, and that can go in your portfolio.
Yes.
So then you do have experience.
Yeah.
In your face.
And add
That's
to
how that works.
LinkedIn, add to LinkedIn, add to LinkedIn.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I did.
Yes, that's how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to hijack.
Oh,
I
no,
thought
no,
this
no,
was-
no,
Yes.
I'm not.
Because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance
Right,
to talk to you
I
for
know.
the rest of the day.
Please keep going.
No.
Yeah.
Anything else? That's it?
That's all I could really think of for the moment. So
And the awesome thing, just to go full circle, is she got interested in this because of where
Because
we are
yeah,
now. Devfest.
Exactly.
So that's
So-
amazing.
What kind of position do you think you're going to be looking for?
I've thought a lot about like the culture, the fit. The position I definitely want mentorship,
Right.
like what you were mentioning, and I'm really open to learning. So I kind of just want to like absorb everything right now.
Okay. Are you looking for remote? Looking for
Remote would be
on-site?
nice, at least some flexibility, but at least Tampa side maybe. Because I've been doing the commute to St. Pete, and I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Oh,
goodness.
Yeah.
So when are you available? When we share this, it can be like hashtag
I'm
looking for job.
available
Oh, yeah.
anytime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a website we can put out there for people to find out about you?
It's holleneh.weebly.com.
Perfect.
That's my portfolio.
All right, yeah.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any other links you want people to go to? Your Twitter?
I have holleneh.github.io.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Awesome.
What kind of, so you code a little bit too, I'm guessing then?
Just a little. I mean, like I know some basic.
What do you know? Tell us.
HTML and CSS.
Uh-huh.
hmm
Any JavaScript?
Not so much. I've been to like the JavaScript meetups and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
So it sounds like you can be a little dangerous if necessary.
yeah,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Don't underestimate the power of HTML and CSS people.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
no, definitely. I love HTML.
Devfest is
Can't believe
dangerous.
Brian.
Listen to him.
I-
He's like, I love it. I
What?
started it.
I am pro CSS.
Let me backtrack.
CSS is programming.
It is,
It
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
What
Drag
kind
and drop.
What kind of stuff do you do in CSS? Are you a grid, Flexbox? What kind of box model?
Text box.
Don't grill her. She's UX.
I don't know.
She's UX.
She answered fine.
But do you enjoy putting together some of the layouts that you design? Is that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of like have this idea and then put it together and actually see it.
Or just like right click, go to more developer tools and stuff like that. So you kind of have like a background or platform to work with.
Yeah. So do you do the visual stuff too? Are you like using
Yeah, I
Figma?
do like visual.
Sketch? Okay.
I do Sketch
Mhm.
and prototyping and InVision and Marvel. So
Oh, Marvel. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think I mean you're already you're there. You know more than most. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked my boot camp, so I would recommend springboard.com if anyone wanted to do boot camps as well.
Yeah. You're the I think the third or fourth person that we talked about that with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's awesome that you can
Yeah.
get in there and do that and then just completely change your career field. I mean, just think about how awesome it is that we can do that now.
Yeah.
Because I
Mhm.
can remember being in high school and being like, okay, I have to go to college and get the thing. And then my whole life is like set
Yeah.
from there. Like I just kind of had this feeling like you were was on this train I was never getting off of.
And
to nowhere.
Yeah, and also
That's what it
if
felt
you
like.
think about with college, people make these decisions when they're 18,
Yeah.
and like, are you taking these?
Yeah.
You know, you're still like
they're not ready.
Yeah,
Most
well,
people aren't ready.
Well,
No.
exactly. But also think about this: like, if you're in a career like in your late 30s, do you still want to take career advice from you at 18? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends who the person is.
Fine.
Brian, you just make everything weird.
He does.
Why?
Makes it
Just
weird.
like,
Makes it difficult.
Depends upon the person.
I'm so glad you see this too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Sorry,
This is
everybody.
getting up on Brian Day.
Yeah.
It is all day long. All day long. Afterwards, they're sweet puppies.
So what was some of the other things that you didn't get to see that you might have wanted to see today at Devfest?
I definitely think women in tech would be interesting to have more of, and
Yes.
just like a diversity and inclusion aspect of it.
Yes.
Those are like things that are interesting to me.
So then what that means is next year you come give a talk.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's what it means. I think that done.
You heard about it here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
next
exactly
year.
So what you're talking to me about?
I've heard a lot about accessibility here, which I enjoy, and I think that would be interesting to explore more.
2020 accessibility talk.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
Go.
That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
you could be going around promoting your book,
Mm-hmm.
doing your
Yeah.
Oh, a
talk.
book now?
Man, you
What
have
the
so much
heck?
pressure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, after all the
Jeez.
articles she wrote in her blog about this book coming out,
Okay.
just adding more to it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we know quite a few people that transitioned from psychology to
Yes.
UX.
Mhm.
So
I think
you're
it's
in a
pretty
good
related,
position.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very related. Yeah. Yeah, totally. What kind of stuff in psychology did you do?
There was I just majored in it, and it's like social psychology.
Uh-huh.
There's some like experimentation. It was a while ago. I know I don't look that old, but it's been several years. But yeah.
So how come? So for what have you been? So you've been doing research for graduate degree or
For my undergraduate.
undergraduate? Okay.
Yes.
And then have you been working in the field, or
No.
did you kind of just decide like I don't think this is for me? I need to pivot.
Yeah. So.
Not to get too personal.
Yes,
But to get
it was.
personal.
Like there were results, but it just took so long
Yeah.
to get results. So I'm more of like I need
Instant
more
gratification.
instant.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, so it was just a little bit dry for me in that area, but the research itself was interesting. We're studying like the behavioral models and drug addiction on the brain, so that was cool.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can see that that's the kind of stuff that you do for years and years and years.
Yeah.
before you can
Yes.
aggregate results.
And I think they just published a paper not too long ago, and it's been like 5 years, so it's
Yeah.
just, it wasn't as instant as I wanted. I like instant feedback and stuff, so.
Yeah, well then you're in the right field because it's pretty much if you're not going to get it instantly, they won't even let you do the
Mhm.
research. They'll
Yeah.
just make you
Yeah.
design it.
It's very iterative too. It's very iterative too. So
That's
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you being on the
Thank you.
show.
I'm not shaking your
yeah,
hand.
I
I
won't
like
do
it.
it again.
She doesn't
There's
shake
a whole
hands.
thing that happened
Yes,
earlier.
this is what harkening back. I'm actually not a
Coffee.
germaphobe.
Uh-huh.
I just like all this handshaking is making me extremely nervous.
Okay.
So,
You heard it here.
thanks everybody for watching. Sarah is a germaphobe.